Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode, Skinwalker Ranch review episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review. Your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. Welcome, you guys. Today's a little different, a little more calm, a little more chill. We're just gonna bring in the old panel, and we're gonna get into this. We've got a killer episode. This is a good episode when Dragon reaches out to you and he says, "Man, this is my favorite episode of any season so far." And we still got, I think, at least another 7 episodes. So let's bring in the panel, shall we? Of course, as usual, the rock of the show, UFO Jane. How you doing?
Hey, I've been better. I'm in Central Texas here, so I don't want to be completely blind to everything going on. So I've been crying and stuff, but this is a nice break from the real news, happening out there. It sucks.
What can you say?
I think I can only say is, how there's been drama on UFO Twitter lately and fighting and stress. Yeah. Can this just make us all just take a step back and realize how none of that matters? We all just have to try to get along, right, and bring as much peace as we can to the UFO topic, which is, that's exactly what this type of stream is. It's a fun one where people can argue about things and not get too personal and mad at each other.
Yeah,
we need more stuff like this in the world.
Agreed. Yeah, it's thoughts and prayers are not enough, but what else can I do? Anyway, all right, let's get on with it. Let's bring in the rest of the crew, shall we? Cristina Gomez, how are you, my lady?
Hi. Well, just like what you said, what Dragon said, this episode was insane.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Insane. Yeah, it was a good episode. All right, let's bring in another rock of the show, Mr. Jazz Shaw. Jazz, how you doing?
Doing as best as anybody can in the current conditions, and I have to agree. This was probably one of the best episodes of the entire series, in my opinion, so far, and a lot of stuff to dig into.
I have a feeling we're going to have some high scores today. Okay, so Rather couldn't be here, so instead of Rather, we'll give you the Dragon. Bryant, what's shaking, man? Welcome.
What's going on? Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I know absolutely. I'm a step down from Rather, but I appreciate taking his spot.
Well, I don't know. I think a lot of people will be happy to not see him today,
do you think would he rain on the parade? Do you think he'd be lowering the average score with some skeptical takes? Maybe.
I gotta tell you, when he said he couldn't make the show, I was bummed because I was like, "Oh man, I'm dying to know what his takes are."
I wanted to know.
We'll get him. We'll get him next week. We'll have him give us his quick overview and score of this episode because it was a good one.
When he gets back, I just wanted to say that this will be the last show that I will be doing with you guys. Right. Starting on Wednesdays. No. I have a new summer job, so I won't be able to make it, but I will be Cristina. Here in spirit, and I'll be listening in when I can.
But I think your portal theory is starting to manifest. I was excited to see.
And we are going to get into that because it seems like every episode, we're just like leaning more and more towards the possibility of portals and wormholes. And holy moly, did this episode really touch on that.
I love it. I love it. She gets excited. Okay. All right, here we go. So season 3, episode 4, it's called Scoped Out is the name of the episode. And so we start the episode with Richard Tinney, Chuck Hards, and David Moulton from the Salt Lake Astronomical Society, and they bring telescopes, 6 of them.
Monsters.
Okay, so so you were there, Dragon. So break down some of these telescopes because I don't know if they showed us all 6, but we got a pretty good view of the big ones.
Yeah, these guys have been doing this sort of thing for 20 plus years. It is their passion. They love it. I mean, it's their thing, and they've spent a lot of time and money on this equipment. And I mean, the great big tall one, is like a custom build, amazing thing. And they were stoked to be there. Like a couple of them had heard about, the ranch a little bit. One of them hadn't at all, and they just thought they were just going to come and help us with an experiment. And they did. It just didn't turn out the right way.
No, it definitely didn't.
In the best way possible.
Yeah. So we'll work our way around the panel here. So Jane, what were your thoughts on the telescopes and the Astronomical Society coming to the ranch? I thought it was cool.
I totally trust the telescope guys. So it was really neat to see them, go in just like an everyday experiment, or let's look up at the stars, like, nothing, it seemed like. And so their excitement and puzzlement and bewilderment over the glitches, that they had never experienced before in the 20 years of operating this equipment, I loved it. I loved this episode. I had so much FOMO. I always say I'm like hesitant about the idea of going to the ranch, knowing all that's around it, but it just seems so exciting to be there at night observing all this stuff. It was such a killer episode.
Well, just a thought.
It was like a finale. It felt like a finale. So I'm like, where are we going to go from here?
No, that's true. It's only episode 3, but it did. I mean, yeah, the idea of missing out just on telescopes in a remote area at night in Utah, like that alone is exciting. Sure. But to add everything else on top of it. But Cristina, go for it. What were your thoughts?
Well, having the society there was pretty fantastical. We got to see their amazing telescopes, and I was just drooling over them. But the fact that when they were able I'm going to fast forward a little bit. The fact that they were able to...
Spoilers, by the way, to everyone watching the show. We're going to talk about every aspect of it, so just FYI. Go ahead. Go for it.
So one of them had mentioned that when they saw this UFO in the sky, one member stated he had never seen anything like that. And these people have a very trained eye on what to look for, meteors, satellites, things like this that are pretty mundane. They see them probably on a pretty consistent basis. The fact that one of them stated they had never seen anything like this shining spherical light with a dot in the middle, kind of like a UFO, like a donut UFO, it just goes to show that that's something very notable to mention, because that's a big deal.
Jazz.
Well, you know how I view the show and how I work. As soon as I watched it, I went and immediately started doing background searches and look for things I could FOIA and whatnot. These guys are not fake. They're completely real. They're not UFO people. They're scientists. And they've done a lot of work before this, and they've made some, pretty remarkable discoveries. And they use state-of-the-art equipment. And looking into their background, I think that adds a lot of credibility to the show, because there's always some people who watch and go, oh, well, they're probably dramatizing this, or the person might be an actor. No, these are people who have done very serious work, not in UFOs, but in watching the sky. And I think that's who you want. And I think that added a lot of credibility to the episode, and the way that it played out and the way that the equipment failed, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. That seemed really remarkable to me. And I took a whole bunch of notes, and I was like, that's not right. Because I worked in electronics. I've worked in radar and all that stuff, and not exactly the same, but along the same lines. And it was just like, that shouldn't actually happen. That this must be drama, right? But no, these are real scientists. So I was impressed that the show brought in those kind of people. So I thought that was a big highlight of the show for me.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the cool thing about these guys visiting the ranch is that they all had mixed knowledge about the ranch, and one of them had no knowledge about the ranch. So they all came in with different sort of perspectives about the ranch, which was cool. And for all 3 of them to kind of turn around and be like, yeah, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in the sky. You know, like these are astronomers again, like going into the background, Jazz, like, you know, these guys are not there to play games. And they're certainly, I'm sure when they say, I've never seen this happen with my $10,000 telescope, they truly mean I've never seen this happen with my $10,000 telescope. Yeah. Like I've got no doubts in my mind that these guys were truly perplexed by the digital failures and the mechanical failures of their equipment. That's got to be frustrating. And I'm curious, Bryant, like how often does the crew deal with stuff like this? And like how many backups of things do they film? Like, for example, have you guys filmed like say a whole segment of something, they put it on a hard drive, and then when they go to upload the footage, it's just gone or it doesn't read, things like that?
I'm really glad that you brought it up because I was going to broach that subject. That's what a lot of people are asking. So in television, there's this thing called the fourth wall, right? It's the camera crew, the sound guys, producers, everything. Some shows, they're willing to break the fourth wall. I wish that they would sometimes. And I'm hoping maybe later in the season, they'll do it because a couple of strange things happened. But so many times, wiped memory cards, where the memory card after filming, there's nothing on it. Both audio cards, you know, camera cards, things like that happens all the time. Like those
all the time. How many scenes, like to say, like how many scenes did you guys lose in this season of the show, would you say?
No, probably a handful.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, just let me just say right now, just losing footage on a set is something that would get you fired immediately. Yep. That to have a handful, you know, happen in one season, that's got to be insanely frustrating for whoever's producing the show. And who does he blame? Like in this instance, does an assistant get yelled at, or does the PA get fired?
No,
or what?
You know, so season 1 happened. And so that was kind of like, what were you doing? You should have checked your memory card. But then, you know, it kept repeating itself more like, you guys, this has happened to our surveillance cameras before. This has happened to other people's equipment where stuff fails. And so, right. You know, piggybacking what you just asked and the actual production company equipment failures, you know, these professionals, they get embarrassed. Like these guys are, you know, take the guys with the telescopes. They bring out this high-tech equipment. And to sit there, like the first couple times, they're like, gosh, I'm so sorry. We don't know what's going on. And it keeps repeating. And we just have to say, you guys, this is not like that you guys, we're not trying to paint you in a bad light. We're not going to make it look that way. But I mean, we've had it with, you know, drone operators. We've had it with multiple people where they're like, this is what we do. And why we're so sorry. We know it's at great expense that we're here and everything else. And I mean, it's become, the non-data has a lot of become the data around there because of those types of equipment failures.
Yep. Non-data is data in this case.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's cool, but you know, that's cool that the story is cool, but I'm sure in the moment it's gotta be frustrating as hell, because if something amazing does happen and the memory card just gets wiped for whatever reason, I just can't imagine how somebody's head's not gonna roll.
I mean, look at a couple weeks ago with the Osiris. I mean, the poor, you know, they came out there and could not. I mean, they hardly got anything out of it because for whatever reason, you know, they've done. UAPX has used that thing in their equipment all over the country, and they've just never seen the likes of what happened there. So,
oof, man. Well, okay. So, what other? I mean, one interesting aspect of the UFO that you saw, and Cristina, you brought this up, is that it had a hole in the middle. And the first thing that I thought of was pictures of black holes and how they bend the light around the hole. And that kind of reminded me, when they zoomed in on it, of something possibly warping space and time, so you see light on the other side of it. I don't know. What did you guys think of that shape? Did it conjure the same thing for you? Start with Jazz, and we'll go up.
You're bringing up one of the points that I don't want to jump ahead too far.
No, jump wherever you want. Jump wherever you want.
I really found some of that footage interesting, and the reactions of the people filming it, because we were looking at things that shouldn't happen. And you mentioned the whole black hole thing, right? You know, is there something blocking some sort of sensory detection ability over the ranch? And they're trying to film this, and they're having these equipment failures, but at the same time, they're recording things, and it does look like light is bending. The note that I had, and the jumping ahead part, when they were firing the laser up to look at it, and they actually caught on film the end of the laser stopping and bending and then splitting. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, I should have gotten
That's
camera
not how
credit
it
for that.
works.
I was filming through like a night vision camera on that. I was mad. I'm like, I texted the producer. I'm like, I should have gotten a camera credit on that. That was my footage.
Wow, that's cool.
So I watched it.
that.
I watched it through the night.
To answer your question, that was one of the biggest things to me. When you look at that, it's like, unless they're completely lying, and I don't believe it, particularly, I did want to point out, I heard Brandon Fugel use the word damn during the show. The guy never swears.
Oh,
my shocked.
I think that's inaccurate. I'm
Is
just
that
saying, inaccurate,
in public, on camera, you don't generally hear him swearing
on camera
or doing anything like that. So. You know, he's very reserved, you know, and I think he was amazed. But that whole thing where the beam split and where the beam bent, and full credit to Dragon if that's who filmed it. Great.
I'm just teasing. I mean,
that was just to me. I was like, okay, this is too weird, you know. But it was apparently real. It's like, I have no explanation for how that works, you know. I thought that was one of the tech highlights of the show.
Yeah, Cristina, what did you think about that part?
I was thinking that the UFO looked like one of those donut-shaped craft that have also featured in a lot of the accidental captures taken around the International Space Station and various shuttle missions of the past. So donut-shaped anomalies, you know, keep showing up in the NASA feeds. So I didn't really think it was a portal, but that is a pretty interesting perspective.
Jane.
Yeah, so let's see. This is a common. The donut, you can't really see the hole, but there's a hole in the middle. That's common. Yeah. I would say it's like one of the more common things that I've seen over the decade. So I'm not going to jump to black holes because that means that there's black holes showing up all the time. And it's typically associated with more stationary objects, which leads me, and I think what's funny is I don't have an article explaining it on my website right now. It sounds like I need to, but I think there are some explanations for it. Here's another witness drawing that was kind of interesting with a little more. Oh shoot, you can't see it because it's black and white. But anyways, so I'm not sure if we're at portal or black hole yet, but I'm intrigued. I do want to mention though the flashing. Dragon, I don't know if you were there eavesdropping with the astronomers, if they did talk about things like exploding meteors, if they talked about satellite flares, because what can happen is a satellite's drifting along and it reflects off the earth and it creates a bright flash. And this has actually been like an issue with like light pollution, and iridium flares were more common. You can still see them, and those are extra bright, but they're not as common as it used to be. But I'm assuming they talked about those things. Jack, did you get any? Yeah.
So you're jumping to where the footage that at the end that they talked about with Travis.
Sorry, I'm fast forwarding.
No, no, you're fine. It doesn't matter. So that's not what that was. And I trust the astronomers because they'd be no.
Well, flare, like satellites and flare.
Well, the astronomers that they weren't there to see that sort of thing. That was captured after.
That's right, that was Eric.
Like both Eric and Travis were like woken up with
True.
what you want to call it, a night terror or whatever. Something shook Travis's trailer at the exact same time. And without, I don't know what else they're going to talk about with that particular thing moving forward in the rest of the show. But I'll just say the way that thing, it happened multiple times. And it happened on multiple nights. And it stayed exactly, it almost like seemed like it was in the same orbit, like almost an extra star in one of the constellations, and it would, that same area in the sky would do the same thing. So that wasn't a one-off. And like I said, I'd like to go deeper into it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, since I haven't seen the episodes, I don't know how much more they're going to touch on it, because I mean, it gets a little bit even more strange. And yeah, there's a lot more to it. So I've seen those things where glints off of satellites, things of that nature, but this happened in a strange set of times. I mean, like, gosh, I'm trying to like I'm trying to like not reveal anything, but still make it sound, you know, I'll just say, I appreciate that perspective, and I totally know what you're saying as far as that goes. I'm hard pressed to believe that that's what it was.
And we're talking about this image right here, right?
Right.
I love that image. I love that image.
I mean, whatever it is, it's extraordinary, right? Even if, I mean, even if
right.
it's from.
Well, so I've heard someone had mentioned that it could be a meteor that's coming at the camera head on, and it flashes and then burns out.
Like I said, it happened for several days at similar time frames, but multiple times, things of that nature. I don't know how much more.
In the sky?
Well, it moved with the constellation. That's just it. It wasn't the exact same spot. It was. I think it might have been Orion at the time. It was literally like almost cloaked in Orion's belt.
Right.
It was very interesting.
But that's hugely larger than any star that you can see, and it's significantly smaller than the moon. If you're looking at the moon, right? I mean, that's a weird size thing to see.
That's the flash. That's not the UFO that moved over with the telescope.
No, I remember this one. Yeah.
Okay.
It just
it was.
It's to me, it wasn't the moon. It wasn't a star. It was something in between, and it didn't just come in and go, right? I mean, it was there for a little while. If it was a meteor travels at incredible speed, and then it burns up, and you see a flash, and it's gone, right?
Right.
That to me, that doesn't scream meteor unless it's a really lazy meteor. You know.
Well, the thing about it is, a meteor, you'd see the trail if it was coming. Like,
right.
It's not like we had a camera where it could go boink and hit into it, right? Like if it was a meteor off in the distance, you'd see it trail. You'd see all kind of stuff like that.
You'd see a shooting star. Basically,
right? Basically,
iridium flares can be pretty crazy. So I don't think they don't make them anymore. Like people complained because it just like it lights up the sky, and so. But what's interesting though, even if you consider iridium flares, those satellites are largely like not showing up at all. So it would still be even strange if it was that particular type of satellite that's known for being, like I was just looking at a video. It's pretty crazy. You'd be right to notice this in the sky and take note and try to learn more about it, you know, whether or not it's a alien portal. Sure. But yeah, those aren't even really up there anymore. So.
Yeah, I mean, to me, everything a wormhole conducts mouth should look as if it opens and closes along with, you know, tendrils of energy. And so I found that clip in particular just mind-blowing. And also in that clip that you just showed, Luis, and also in the show, you're able to see filaments, but also because of the light, you're able to see some type of depth as well. And I just found that amazing. And at the end of the show, Eric mentions, it says, it could contribute to our understanding of the universe. So I feel like this scene was such a big deal. And every single week I mention, it seems that this show, especially season 3, is moving closer and closer to the possibilities of wormholes and portals. And the fact that something like this was captured, it truly just blows my mind. And from that clip alone, I give the whole episode a 10 out of 10 for that.
Well, you just skipped right ahead to the score.
Wow, we're
there.
just skipping to the end of the
show. We're just skipping along.
Yeah, just to circle back to Luis, when you asked about the donut shaped thing, that thing moved across the sky. And so, to Jane's point, as far as, a black hole, it's usually not, moving along. So this thing, it moved across the skyline, and like it moved erratically. It's not like it was, it moved up and down quickly and over, and then it almost tailed away and went back off to the north, or to the south actually. And it was, I've never seen anything like that. Like, we all were standing there, mouth hanging open, going,
well, there was a couple
what is that?
Couple things that I noticed was that Travis Winterton, in all his time there, had never seen anything like that. You, in all your time there, had never seen anything like that. Travis, obviously, had never seen anything like that. But also the astronomers who were there had never seen anything like that. So for them to look at the sky and be like, yep, you guys are looking at something strange and I can't get a grip on it. And you guys were also looking, I'm assuming you were using binoculars, and I thought I saw someone with a night vision camera.
See, I got in a little bit of trouble because I'm like, oh my gosh, it looks amazing. Because I was looking through, we have a FLIR binocular. It's like a $4,000, night vision binocular. And I'm amazed.
Oh, I gotta get one of those.
They're like, he's like, are you recording? I'm like, no, it doesn't record. And there's like, oh man, because you know how it is. It didn't happen on camera. It didn't happen when it comes to TV. But based on what I saw, it was. I mean, I wish that the night vision recording camera that they were using, which was not nearly, of that caliber, would have captured it, because it even better.
So that monocle camera that you have does not record.
It's just a night vision binocular. So it's basically like a pair of binoculars, just single.
Just one.
Military use them. They mount them on helmets to see at night, things of that nature. We just happen to have one. And so I was just at it, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to check it out through this.
Oh, yeah, man. Damn. I guess I'm assuming the more expensive versions of those can record. Yeah, what are you going to say?
Could I interject a little bit? So like I said, I've seen these donut UFOs, but that's because I'm researching UFOs. So that's the only reason, is because they get reported as anomalous. But you know how Cristina was talking about the ISS space station, people seeing similar objects. I was looking through some of the reports, and there's some good images, and the witness not only took a picture of a light with a hole in the middle. I don't know if this will show up. It's really obvious. Can't. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They saw it with their naked eye too. They're like, it appeared. They sent this to me a while ago. It appeared to be the same white orb with a hole in the center, reminiscent of the UFOs captured on film during the tether incident. The object was trailing some type of tan-colored appendage about 3 to 4 times the width of the object. There's more details. So this was, a strange sighting. The tether incident is one of those weird space videos, if you recall, with the halo, the donut with the hole in the middle. And like I said, I don't know if there's any McWest in the channel, but I have seen some theories online about what can create that effect. So I'm open to that. But I still think, and this is for the tether, people kind of, I need to send you things ahead of time.
Well, you can upload, you can share them from your end.
Yeah, if people just remember, they'll probably, you guys can kind of remember that NASA footage. But back, I just had to throw in some other donut UFO anecdotes.
It was cool. Go ahead.
The crew definitely needs to get a Pulsar Helion 2 XP50 Pro. I mean, hunters use it, thermal, and records in high def. Dragon, do you know what you were using to record that donut-shaped UFO? Because I mean, this Pulsar Helion, and I'm saving up for one, but it's about like $5,000.
No, it's so actually kudos to. It was one of the astronomer guys that were out there. I can't remember what it's called. Honestly, I'm not techie like that. It's just basically, a night vision camera that records, but they're not, I mean, they're like in the $500-$600 range. You know what I mean? So,
yeah,
it wasn't, that type of high quality. And yeah, we've talked about that we need to be able, and we got an adapter for the FLIR and it wouldn't play with the camera right and things like that. So it's not like we've tried and we're just like, oh, we're just going to make it look fuzzy so it doesn't look very good. But we're certainly, that's on the things that we're investing in to get more of. So
what are you investing in to make sure that every time you have good gear and you turn it on, that something doesn't make it mysteriously
see that's just
off.
it. And I can't, I don't want to move on from the very fact that they were like literally the thing that was so crazy is that system that they plug into their telescopes to get them. I mean, because the whole reason we had them there is we wanted them to look through the triangle and to see if when a star passed through, to see if there was something there that looked different or it moved and things. Because the stars orbit the way that they orbit. It's not, I mean, the Earth orbits the way it does and the stars are there. And so as they were watching, they wanted to see as we were watching the stars, if it moved at all, if it went out of orbit, because they can track all of that different kind of stuff to see if there was an optical issue with whatever's there in the triangle that would, make the star distorted or something of that nature. So the fact that they were in a closed system, like meaning it's programmed into that thing, and that each and every time they tried to put another known star in that region in their computer to get their telescope to train on it, it was wiped from a closed system, not connected to the internet, nothing like that. That would be like if I looked up the word phenomenon in the dictionary and then changed the page and went back to it, someone had gone and that word wasn't there anymore. So I couldn't even look at it. So weird. I mean, that was the strangest thing, is that it's not, there's no way to hack into, like, it's not connected to any signal or anything. It's like literally like someone you're reading on your Kindle and it's not connected to the internet, and all of a sudden a word just disappears off the page. It's not supposed to happen, and it happened multiple times. That was so bizarre.
Can I ask you about the original? So the original experiment, just so everybody knows, because I don't think we painted this picture, and I've got oh no, this is the wrong picture. So I've got Travis Taylor here in front of a rocket, which you guys hooked up 2 LEDs to, so you can find it at night when it takes off. So what was the original plan for this experiment if it had worked correctly? Like what was the point of it?
So they were going to train their telescopes on stars right before they pass through the area of the anomaly on the triangle. And that way they would be able to see if, stars stay, like you've seen, like, long exposure cameras and things like that, where the stars, they start making lines because, the Earth's orbiting in a certain way. So the movement is very consistent. It's very consistent. Yeah. So known stars within that area, that 5,000 foot range, everything, they could watch through their telescopes and record. And when it passed through the area, if there was any deviation there, or, or some sort
wobble
of
or disappearing,
then that way we'd know that there was the possibility of something there doing it. So, and then on top of it, Travis loves rockets.
I cannot imagine what the budget for rockets on this TV show is.
No, you can't. And I had somebody reach out on Twitter. It was funny. He's like, "Hey, Dragon, do you enjoy launching rockets with Travis?" And I was like, "Yeah, about the first 10 times." I mean, it's like, okay, we need to get this ready. And it's fine. Like,
I love that he wore a CrossFit shirt in the last scene of the show, because I immediately thought of you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was a down day, or we had. Well, no, it was because we had filmed at night, so your call time's not till later the next day, and that happened. And he was just hanging out in his trailer, while he was woken up. And then later in the morning, he went over and said, it was just what he was lounging in. But you're right. It was funny. I saw that too.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So let's get to the telescopes fail. So when they're trying to fix the telescopes onto these stars, the stars start disappearing from the telescope's computer system that already has these things mapped out. Literally, you're supposed to do is show up with the telescope, set it up, punch on the computer, it locks onto a star, and then boom, you can sort of watch the sky from that locking. And so as they're trying to do this they're pointed the telescopes through the triangle.
That's correct.
And then when they try to find the stars as they're looking through that part of the sky, the telescopes can't lock onto them. Is it just one telescope? Did this fail on all of them?
So his was the one that had that does that sort of thing, and it kept being wiped out of that hard drive. The other guys, they could fix through the area, but then like their camera wouldn't record, or a bunch of other things. They couldn't gather what we were trying to get for them. Wow. I mean, it or get from them.
That had to
Can I do a follow up to that?
Yeah, please, Jess.
When we talk about, and that was something that I was a little confused about watching the episode. When they're looking through the telescopes, I understand there's a lot of software in the background that's locking onto things and doing tracking and identifying, okay, here's known systems. Did the telescopes fail entirely so there was nothing? Or was it a case where just, I'm sorry to say just, the software was failing so it wasn't registering, but they could still see things? Could they still see through the telescopes at that point?
I was out with the rocket stuff, so I'd have to get a little bit of clarification with that. Watching on the episode, it seemed as though they were having trouble not only fixing on them, but we're having equipment failures where they weren't working when they were looking, whenever they'd swing it through that area, things of that nature. But I was out holding rockets and shooting shit and stuff like that. So,
So this is the gentleman, Chuck Hards, who had this particular telescope. If you go to this picture here, you'll notice in his right hand, he's got like this little control pad, and that's the computer system where he locks on this black telescope to the star system, and it just would not work. And I mean, I would assume that, again, just going back to what I said earlier, he's, in 10 years, he's never had that issue with that telescope. In 10 years. And then the second he shows up to your ranch, all of a sudden, he's got an issue with the telescope.
I know, but it's so crazy. It happened over and over again. He's like, okay, I know this star is in this known area, right? Let's pick that one. And he goes, and it's gone. So he's like, okay, what's another one? Goes to pick that one. It's gone. It's like anything in that area. It was like,
the Salt Lake Astronomical Society is not going out there to make fool of themselves.
Right.
They're probably going out there to make a fool of you guys, if anything. We'll go out there with some telescopes and we'll show them there's nothing to this, and then they show up there and then the telescopes don't work. That's wild. But let's talk about, because I think the coolest part of this whole episode was this laser, this high-powered laser that you guys, because they could not transfix the telescopes on the certain part of the sky, they decided to hit up a laser into that part of the sky, so then the telescopes can train on that laser and then try and get some data that way. But then when you started to point up the laser into that area of the sky, Travis noticed that at about 2,000 feet. It was you that noticed at 2,000 feet.
No. It was kudos to Caleb. Caleb had the laser.
Or Caleb, excuse me. Yeah.
And so, he's like, because there's a lot of times you was shining a laser pointer, not really, we're just doing it. He was so fixated on it. And he's like, that doesn't seem like it's right. Because what was happening at first is it was like almost cutting off, shortening as if it was moving, like if it was stopping or there was a break in it or something of that nature. So Travis started looking at it, and he did it again, and you had the split, and you had it go, and at the end it like was hitting, it almost looked like it was bending over, you know, it did look like it was bending over. So, and I was, like I said, I was watching and recording through one of those that same type of camera that the other UFO was, you know, captured with. And I saw it too. I was like, that was very, very strange.
I just can't believe that a laser pointer bending and splitting is more interesting than a UFO showing up. But it almost is. It is to me, and that's wild to think about. But I mean, I think we all know how a high-powered laser works, and when you point it at something, like everybody's almost, not everybody, but most people have played with these types of lasers, and they don't just stop. Like the
they don't bend,
and they don't bend, and they definitely don't split. They fade out. I mean,
that's why people measure and level things to finite degrees with lasers, because it's a straight line. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's a straight line. It doesn't go and bend unless it's being refracted or hitting something.
Do you know how we know how far away the moon is? Because
I was just about to say
astronauts left mirrors on the moon, and we shoot lasers at them, and we time how long it takes for the pulse to go and hit the mirror and come back.
Yep.
It's a really reliable method of gathering data.
Yeah. And for that to bend, it's almost as if, I mean, it's almost as if something is sitting there and the beam is interacting with it in a way.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
To be fair, when you're talking about light does bend when it goes from one medium to another. If anybody has ever sat there by a stream and saw a fish and poke a stick at it, it's not where you think it is. If you go from air to liquid and liquid to solid, light does bend.
Sure.
But when you're sitting on the ranch and it's just air,
right?
You think it's just
really
air, right?
isn't that sort of transition. Light's pretty reliable, you know. So you can find examples where light shifts if you're like going from air
and
into the water.
we actually talked about that, you know, after episode 1, when we were trying to drop bottles, and to our vision it looked like we were right over the top of the triangle when we were actually a ways off, to see is there an optical distortion there. You know, like if you look that's a perfect example. You can think, okay, that fish is right here, and you go to stab it and you're a few inches over from it, or whatever it is. And that was part of what this experiment was supposed to see. Is it just, you know, something possibly there, an atmospheric thing, something that bends the light there, or, you know, distorts an image there, or things of that nature. That was a lot of what the whole thing with the star passing through that area, to see if there's something there that's causing, you know, images to be distorted or things of that nature. And then, you know, fortunately we got it from the bottom, as opposed to, you know, the way that we were trying to look at it.
Yeah, man, I'm glad you took that into account.
I mean, what's wild to me is you guys fly through that airspace all the time. That's got to be pretty wild. But I mean, Cristina, what did you think of this this moment of the show with this laser pointer?
I mean, or is there like an aperture there? I mean, some kind of light lensing effect might be going on. Maybe that really is a small area at 2,000 feet. That is, you know, one opening end of a portal, and then it could also be doing gravitational lensing. I mean, causing GPS issues and compass issues and radio frequency issues. So I'd imagine you'd have all of these effects at the mouth of a wormhole aperture.
Jane, thoughts on the laser?
Well, I'm excited to find out of Cristina's theories if we find more evidence for them over the coming episodes, and just in general with, there was essentially you guys captured a similar UFO that was presented in the public UFO hearings recently, in my opinion, right? So we're probably going to have some learnings about these strange lights soon. So I'm excited for it. But what is really weird for me, as this gets more real, because I get more skeptical. But I think it's a good thing because it's like, okay, we're really trying to prove something here. And I remember this is a TV show, so we have to have the alien hypothesis going into it. It's more fun. Why not? But remember, in order to do a scientific experiment, in order to do the scientific method, it's all based on that hypothesis. So right now we're so all over the place with our different ideas, and we don't really have a specific hypothesis to test yet. So I think we're getting there, though. Slowly but surely we're getting there. Are we making some mountains out of, is it molehills?
Mm-hmm.
Molehills?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
I don't think I've ever
I'm
said
old
that
enough to know that phrase.
Right. But it's okay, though. I mean, that's what's so fun about science and the unknown, and you need your imagination to guide you and give you ideas. And so, yeah, I hope so. I mean, if the aliens are friendly, I don't know. If this is if we're about to make contact with aliens, I hope that they're friendly. I don't know that I want to believe always, right?
Is that
Skinwalker Ranch is kind of a dark place, right?
I mean, is that fair, Dragon? Is it fair to say that there's not one hypothesis yet as far as what we're dealing with?
I mean, and how is it? Go ahead. Sorry. I mean, you could say, a hypothesis is like you heard Travis. He said, I don't necessarily know that that's what it is. I'm not saying that's what it is, but the things around it say it's the possibility of a wormhole opening up type of a thing. You know what I mean? Following the scientific method on Skinwalker Ranch is extremely frustrating and extremely difficult. But between Eric and Travis, that they always strive to do that. And they're not going to jump. I love that Eric is our chief science, our head investigator there, because he is the last. He's not going to get Mr. Excited. He's not going to say, oh my gosh, look at that. It's this and this. He's going to make sure he vets things out, and he'll say, there was definitely something strange. I don't know what it is. We need to look into it more. We need to try different things to try and figure it out, but I'm not going to say a conclusion one way or another. I loved, it was great. Eric was really animated in this
loved
episode.
Him in this
fantastic.
episode. Yeah. This is the most animated I've seen him. When he was
great. When Travis is like, guys, you ain't going to believe what's happening. He's like, Travis, I think we believe about anything you say now at this point, because of everything that was happening with the telescopes where they were.
Right.
That's where I was, because, and one of the notes I took down, in addition to Brandon saying damn, was when you listen to Brandon talk about it at this stage of the investigation, he's not selling something. This guy actually is, and I don't think Brandon Fugel knows what's going on for a moment, but he's definitely curious, and I don't think he's BSing anybody. I mean, it just listening to the bits where he's on the show and he talks about it, I really am struck with the fact that he's like, I want to know. And he's not saying he knows, but he wants to know, and it's not something obvious. And I think that's impressed me more on this season than in the previous seasons. I think Brandon's discussions about this, it's like he really is confronting a mystery, and he's somebody that's used to winning in mundane things, and now he's out here confronting something that it's like, well, that may be beyond him. I don't know. That's just my impression.
Sure.
Well, before we end this, we gotta. One quick question: how long did it take for the cows to settle down?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good question.
Oh, it took a while. Yeah, we've seen that behavior before. They just cram against.
They don't react that way to the rockets, right?
No. They see so many rockets on that ranch, they're dropping down on them.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're pretty used to rockets by now. Been 3 years of rockets for those cows. Cool. So then, all right. So then let's touch real quick on Adelita, your neighbor over there at Skinwalker Ranch.
I loved her.
Forgot to write down her last name. But I thought it was Diaz.
What's that?
Diaz? Adelita? No.
Did they put it on?
They did. Yeah, they put her whole name on there.
I don't remember. Okay.
Yeah. But either way, we know who we're talking about. So yeah, they were talking to Candace and the crew there as far as, again, going back to getting to know the other people in the Uinta Basin. And I think this is a really cool part of the show. And she gave a couple of stories, not only of her eyewitnessing some things, but of her dad. Particularly, her dad has witnessed a few things in the basin. So yeah, I mean, just quickly, if anybody had any strong opinions or thoughts on this part of the show? But I think this is again, this is I think a part they could expand on in a whole different show. I think this part of the show could be its own show, because I'm sure there would be a line of people around whatever block there is there in Utah of stories of things people have seen. But I just found it fascinating, and I think it adds to the totality of that particular place in Utah. I mean, there's only so much, before you're like, okay, something's going on. Something's happening here.
And so her last name could be Diaz. The people she lives, I think, with her grandfather. It's the Garcias that are next door. Anyway, they're Native Americans, and they're very hesitant. We've asked her to come on all 3 seasons, and it's kudos to Jim Morse, just working the and making friends and everything, till where finally she was very hesitant to come talk about it. You noticed they hung out outside the gate.
Yeah,
she won't go on the ranch. She won't.
Wow. Nope. I found it also interesting because and to add to what you're saying, is when they were questioning her, or trying to convince, because she didn't, when it got to a certain part of the story she was going to tell, she said, hey, you know what? I don't know if I want to go there. And they had to convince her, like, hey, listen, the more we can get people to talk about this, there's safety in numbers, like it'll hopefully inspire other people to come out and talk about this. So don't, embrace it. Don't be afraid of it. And I'm glad that she did. And I huge applause to Adelita. I thought she was a really cool part of the show.
Yeah, she was. Look, I'm glad that we've had, that's 2 episodes in a row now. We've had Native Americans, because they're huge. I mean, they've been witnessing and experiencing these things for a long time. They have, and
Adelita Diaz.
There you go. Yep, you were right. Good job. Yeah. I'm glad, and I love it. And Jim, like I said, does so much good work with the community, and it was fantastic. Yeah.
No, he's doing a really good. I'm glad, because for the first 2 seasons, I was like, man, what are these guys kind of doing there? I feel like they're part of the team, but I don't know, every once in a while he'd show up with somebody on the ranch and you guys would talk to him. But I'm glad, like, this season they're making an effort to actually show what he does in the community and how important he is to the community and how trusted he is in that community, because people do come on camera and they do share their stories. I mean, and we were talking about that gentleman from last week with the petroglyphs,
John Dover,
right. Which I didn't know until Cristina had made us aware of how important he is to that part of Utah, and he's a legend in those parts. So that's I think when the production goes there, I dig it.
That's a big part of the story. A couple weeks ago, I just published a piece on another site about the whole aspect of the Native American influence, and I interviewed 2 people who worked at the ranch before Brandon Fugel's team took over, and talked to them, and they were both very interested in the Native American aspect, and they had been in touch with the Native American community, and they felt like they had been really rejected by the previous owners. they weren't interested in that sort of thing, but they were like, wow, that's a big part of this, and the comments that I got from them really resonated with this episode, because it's like, you do need to be in touch with the people who have been there long before white people arrived,
Yeah.
and I was very grateful to see that in this episode.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's move on to scores, shall we? You guys ready?
No.
No, you're not ready. All right, so we won't start with you, Jazz. I'll go first because I haven't gone first yet. So I'll set up the table so then you guys can go after me. So and then I got one more question for you, Bryant. I'm gonna go ahead. Entertainment score. Ooh, I'm still saving the 10 for like a huge, like for the Wolfman to appear or something like that. So I'm gonna give it a 9.5, which is probably the highest entertainment score I've given. From the science aspect, I think what you said, Dragon, is the fact that there's no data is starting to become data itself. And that we had astronomers go out there, not only fail at their experiments, which they never do according to them. That was data. And then the laser, I can't get that laser out of my head. I think that to me was hands down one of the most interesting things I've seen in any of the seasons of the show. I'm going to give the science a 7.5. This is a really high, probably the highest science score I've given. I think this is the highest score I've given for any episode ever on the show. Man, I'm dying to know what Rather thought about this. But Jazz, okay, let's go to you. What did you think?
I really hate to even give a score. I think there's going to be better stuff to come. I don't want to go overboard, but I hope I laid out everything well enough about the science, about the data collection they were doing, the background information that some of us have discussed offline. I really thought this was the best episode so far. I'm hopeful there's going to be even more to come. I'm not going to go.
Well, if this is episode 3, you know if this is episode 4, excuse me, episode 4. Yeah,
I'm going to go a 9.9. I got a 9 for each.
Wow.
Okay.
I think
that's great.
There may still be better to come, but this was, in my not so humble opinion, it's one of the best episodes we've seen of the show, both scientifically and how it was produced, how it was delivered, and the information they made available, which to me is the most important part. I thought it was really well delivered, and I don't have much challenge on it. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Right on. Cristina.
I honestly thought that before watching this latest episode that the last episode last week was the best episode. And then this one came around, and now this one's the best episode of the season, if not of the entire show, of all 3 seasons. Yeah. I'm telling you, season 3 is truly knocking my socks off every single episode. And it's so shocking. I don't know how they're going to outbeat this one. So, Luis, like you, I got to save my 10. So I want to give it like a 9.7. mainly because they were able to capture a potential wormhole, which is just, I don't even have words for it. And as for the science score, I'm also going to agree with both Luis and Jazz and giving it a pretty high score. Maybe also a 9. I think that it's been so spectacular. And Dragon, you've seen what's already happened, so we have to wait. The public has to wait for future episodes, but I don't know how they're gonna beat this episode. It was so good.
Dragon, are they gonna beat this episode? Yes or no?
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I'm glad I'm saving my 10. All right, man.
Like, you weren't wrong.
I got my fingers crossed for Dino Beavers, baby. Let's do it.
Listen, you weren't
Give
wrong
us
when
the
you said
Dino Beavers, Dragon. Give us the Dino Beavers.
Right. You said it's episode 4. TV people aren't stupid,
right?
So, if it was like the be all end all, you wouldn't have seen it yet.
Yeah. Interesting. All right, Jane, what do you got?
I've been saving my 10s. I'm whatever 10. Maybe I'll have to start adjusting, my whatever as it goes on. But I'm beginning to think that phone from a few episodes back is was actually haunted, right? So I really think we're getting into something here, and I'm gonna be confident in that 1010 because my 10-year-old son, who normally really tunes out all this stuff, because I'm boring, guys. Mommy's boring. UFO, he's never UFOs. He actually started to watch this episode. He was watching the laser beam experiment. He could sense the excitement. He actually was impersonating Dr. Taylor at one point. So 1010. It was awesome.
Wow, 2 10s?
I don't know. I guess I should say 9.7 for the science, just because it would have been. I like it. I like for the producers to do those little sidebar explanations, like, oh yeah, we explored that theory, and here's why it's not that. But I understand there's only so much room, in the editing.
Jane's kid is going to be a ufologist, just by just
more likely to be a ghost hunter.
Let's say right now, we're a ghost hunter, and we'll all be doing this show. Any of us who are alive 20 years from now, interviewing Jane's son, like, how did you get started? My mom was this crazy woman.
He'll be interviewing us. So, Dragon, I mean, you said this was your favorite episode so far ever.
You know what? It was for a multitude of reasons. I mean, for me, I think they captured just how frustrating, but yet extraordinary, and how crazy that particular night was. I think they did a great job of capturing it, and they let us, they left a little bit of fun in there. There was a little bit of laughter, I had plenty of times to make all kinds of facial expressions. That's why I thought you were going to give it a 10 out of 10.
But it was so interesting that I completely blew over that part. I mean, there was a lot of sarcasm in this episode where they're like, especially over the radio, where you guys are like, "Are you guys ready?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're ready." Sitting here for
we've been ready.
Minutes.
I mean, we're standing out there. We're standing out there in the dark, going,
"It was funny.
What in the hell is taking so long?"
I'm still gonna say my 10 because I have a feeling we're gonna get even more facial expressions and more humor and more wild stuff to go down.
And you know what? That was one of the things that I was hoping for, was a little less of just bomb, bomb, bomb type, where there's a little bit of interaction, because we had, we had a little bit of that. Like when we were setting up to launch the rocket, that was my truck we were using that time. So that's why I'm like, how far away from the truck does it need to be? And he's like, well, it depends on how much you care about that truck. I'm like, whose truck is that? A little bit of that.
If I can jump in, like that. I remember that moment in the episode, whose truck is that? And then it cut away. It was like, it was never clear whose truck that was. It was that was Dragon's truck. Okay, you're going to blow my truck up because there's a UFO here. We didn't get to see that in the final comment,
So anyway, and then, like I said, you guys don't get to see all the science. That's why, we've tried to do our web platform, and I'm excited because Travis is going to be in town for this other thing going on in Vernal. So we're going to film a lot more roundtable discussions. When we sit around the command center table and all that different kind of stuff, they want to hit on certain topics.
Yeah.
We're going to just sit around and just talk, and we're going to talk a lot about, some of the other things, that maybe I've forgotten that we didn't touch on and everything like that. So I'm excited that we have a little bit more of an outlet there.
Yeah.
Science aspect. Look, I know how meticulous Eric and Travis are about this stuff. I know how very particular these guys from the Salt Lake, Astronomical Society are about their equipment and what they brought out. I mean, these things, it took hours to unpack because they're all so, meticulously put together and all that different kind of stuff. And even though we didn't capture data, I mean, we brought the data to the table. I mean, we brought the equipment to the table. And so from a scientific side of things, do we have a lot of scientific answers? No, but I know the work that went into it. I'm always going to give it a high science score. But for me, like I told you, it was my favorite episode. I've had so many more people reach out to this going, holy crap, what in the world is that? Like blown away by that kind of stuff. So, entertainment wise, I'm not going to go the full enchilada yet. I'll go a 9 on that. And then science, I'll give it the same. But I'm telling you that like I said the first time I came on, we had more interesting and profound things happen this past year than we did the first 2 years combined filming the show. And I'm telling you, there's a lot more to come. Both exciting, both strange, both confusing, dangerous. There's a whole lot more.
What was your favorite part of this episode in particular?
I mean, I'm glad that we caught that, like, because I don't see the footage. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are standing around with cameras. I don't see all that. They get the memory cards and go send them off to post-production, right?
Right.
So I'm just we've seen other things on the show, and I'm like, damn, I wish you could see it like I saw it, because the camera just doesn't do it justice, especially at night, right?
Right.
And so the fact that it wasn't perfect, but that we actually captured it, and it wasn't just, hey, look at that, and then it's gone type of a thing. It really, I was watching with my kids, and I almost got a little bit emotional, because it brought back the feelings of that night and the excitement of what we saw and the things that we experienced. So a particular moment, if I had to pick one, just, I guess the fact that we captured that donut, I mean, because that was the most, I mean, we've seen little things in the sky and stuff, but that was very profound in my eyes. And then, the lasers too. It was pretty trippy.
Yeah, no, those were really, yeah, I agree. Do you know if the camera systems that you guys set up, I think in either episode 1 or 2, new camera systems, the platforms in the corners of the ranch, did those platforms or any of the other platforms catch that anomaly?
So no, so like the LVT systems are more designed, they don't look up quite as much. You know what I mean? I mean, they were designed by a company here in Utah for security purposes, right? I mean, really, we could perch it as high on the mesa as we could, but it did not. The LVT systems are both, I use them more on security side of things because of the way that they're set up and the way they're designed with motion and things like that. They've been a great help, but we didn't get any of that on that. No.
All right. Well,
and the unfortunate thing, but don't forget, we missed touching on one thing.
Go for it.
Right before we started, Eric got his sky-facing camera that he captured that flash. He got that set up because we wanted that for that experiment too. And when the guy's telescope stopped working, his camera went offline at the same time.
Wow.
So that was I thought that was very interesting, because you could see him sitting in his computer getting all frustrated about that too. He's like, my camera just went offline, the brand new one we just put up.
I just feel like anywhere else in the world, stuff like this would happen and people would be like, what the hell? And at this point now with this ranch, it's just like par for the course. It's like, this is expected. We actually planned for this. It's I cannot imagine if the technical difficulties are half of what I think they are, I cannot imagine how difficult it must be to produce.
Let me put it this way: if there's any subscribers to our newly put out their web platform out there, we apologize, because we're having like the strangest, weirdest thing from like the internet provider, where the live streams all of a sudden is going down, and they're checking these fiber lines, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong there, but we don't have signal. So we're trying to do everything we can to work out those bugs. It's beyond frustrating. You have no idea. You pull in your car with a brand new battery you've just driven from Salt Lake, spend the night, and get out, and the battery's dead. I mean, it happens to all kinds of stuff. It happens all the time.
And even though that's the case, and the fact that so many cards have been wiped, what's so fantastic about this TV show in particular is that there's hardly, if not any, fillers or fluff or like drama amongst the crew members, like some other kind of more reality TV shows. This one just punches you straight in the face of getting into the facts, the science, the tests, the experiments, and everything, which now amazes me even more, knowing the fact that so many cards have been wiped, where you just lose hours upon hours of footage, and yet you're able to create so many episodes that are just filled with truly interesting data.
Can I throw out something weird?
Yeah.
While I was watching Skinwalker Ranch last night, there were audio static issues, and it was weird. It wasn't affecting any other TV shows as far as I know. And it just like made me think, and I was wondering if this, I guess this theory or merging hypothesis that the ranch is trying to stop us from learning about it. I kind of have a nervous feeling for upcoming episodes. Like, is History Channel just suddenly going to go down during like the finale or something? But I would be prepared for this to continue to be like maybe frustrating if we're onto something, and so to not give up and to keep seeking, because might get worse.
We're not going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Dragon, thank you so much for hanging out for the hour.
No, thanks for letting me come on. Like I said, I was really excited for what I saw, and
thanks,
so
Dragon.
I definitely wanted to.
Well, when you hit me up this morning and as excited as you were, I was like, oh yeah, definitely got to get him. He's never done that. He's never called me going, dude, this is the one. This is the one that I really enjoyed watching. And to hear that you also got a lot of response from it from people that you normally don't get responses from is also encouraging to hear. So that means people are watching it. They're watching it, and they're waiting for that aha moment. And I feel like this episode was the closest we've had to an almost not an aha moment as if we're making a discovery, but an aha moment like that shit is weird.
I mean, you know? I think by far it was the most profound visual evidence that we've presented from like the UFO, phenomenon side of things, as well as with the lasers and that's what I love. Like,
yeah,
it's finally, because people are always like, oh yeah, you're never going to find anything. Oh, geez, that's weird. Your cameras went down. Oh, how did that happen? Well, we actually have some shit to show you this time. Yeah. And it was great. It made me really happy.
I think that's what also is sort of the payoff from my perspective as a fan watching the show is you watch the first 2 seasons and sometimes you're like, oh, come on, man. Really, it failed. The camera failed. And now we're on season 3 and we're like, Jesus Christ, this is not a joke. Like this is happening not only to the crew, it's happening to the people who come on the ranch with their equipment and those professionals as well. Because in a lot of these cases, this show is a commercial for their business. It's like they're wearing the hat of the business that they have or the LiDAR or whatever drone company they own. And they're promoting, like UAPX, when they showed up, they had their hats on and this is the Osiris. This is our pride and joy.
Here, I'll promote Skinwalker Ranch with my Skinwalker Ranch t-shirt.
There you go. But yeah,
Luis is right. I mean, it's not just the producers. It's not just the people making it.
Right.
There are people showing up on this show that we all know personally, privately, that we've known for years. They're not going to come on and just go spreading out some BS.
Right.
And it's like, everybody wants to know. We want to know the answers. Here's what
I also think
me most about this season so far.
Yeah. Well, and I also add on top of that, I think this show right here is the best show to get perspective from behind the scenes and what happened during the episode, because you visit us, Brandon Fugel visits us, like you guys are so open with your time and welcome the hard questions. So it's really difficult to turn around and be like, yeah, this is all bullshit. Like, we can't do that because you guys are here. You guys are facing the questions. We're giving a score in front of you of the show, and you guys are cool with it. Like, that says a lot about what you guys are trying to do there. It really does, that you sit here and face the music almost every week with us, and we're not easy on this show. Like, we don't pull any punches. But
I mean, it's funny.
The more we get into it, the less punches we have, because it's like, damn, like there's no reason to punch here. This is just interesting now. At this point, it's just really damn interesting. Little puppy stuff.
And you know what? And that's I do the same things. I have my criticisms. That's why I said this one I really like, because I think that they actually captured the essence of how things were. There wasn't a bump, and then it really turns out to be nothing type of a thing. I mean, it was, I thought it was exciting from start to finish. And I mean, you remember, we're not going to shy away. You remember how our relationship started in the first place.
Yeah.
I watched your review of one of the episodes last season. I thought you guys were funny and you had some of the same thoughts that I was. So then, you know, we bantered back on Twitter a little bit and you invited me on. And because, you know, you didn't ask me in the beginning, I found you on my own and I thought, you know, I want to hear what these guys are saying. And I found that you guys are very open. You're honest. You have really good questions. You do your damn research, which is very important. You know, you guys, like, you do your research. You're not just coming to this saying, yeah, I saw this. What's this about? No, you look into it. And so it helps to legitimize us. So I'm grateful to you guys for the way that you conduct this. That's why I'm always, if I'm available, I'm happy to come on, just because you guys are fun. You have a good time with it. You're very intelligent and you're straightforward. And I fancy myself as a straight shooter, and I'll say it how it is. Sometimes it gets me in trouble with people, but that's what I appreciate about you guys as well.
Hey man, thank you.
There's more to come, so
we appreciate that. Yeah, there's more to come. Yeah, things are just getting cooking. And when Jazz says that, Jazz is here's the best part about this season is Jazz is FOIA-ing shit from this, like, and he's getting really interesting things, and he's waving me off because he's like, "Shut up, don't talk about it." But
no,
but may never.
But like I said, going into the research,
yeah. But he's research like things, and if he's doing it, that means that there's probably other people doing it too. And we recommend to do so. And you're going to find some interesting stuff, you know, but it's foilable and it's interesting. And I can't wait to see the next 6 episodes because I think, like I said, this is episode 4 and this is the best one out of all 3 seasons. So, yeah, I mean, I honestly can't wait to get Rather here next week and see what he scored this one. But yeah. You guys, this was fun. Thank you so much for joining us. Cristina, Jane, Jazz, Dragon, you guys have been an absolute pleasure. This is always fun. And I know we'll be talking. Maybe we could do a roundtable at the end of the season with everyone or as many people as we can get from the show. Because I know for sure that Brandon has said he'll come after the season's over. So maybe, you know, we'll get you or Travis or Eric or whoever, or just the 2 of you guys. That would be more than enough too.
Gotta get Travis. He's so
you know what?
We gotta talk to Travis.
You know what? I've spoken with Thomas. Thomas would be great to have on here. I know that Cristina had him on her show. I've already spoken and he likes you guys. He loves, you know, he's watched. And I said, well, I will pass along your information to Luis and you can reach out if you want to be part, because he is a lot of the glue that keeps the ranch together. And he is a Uinta Basin native, lives 15 minutes from the property, has crazy crap happen at his home, has all different kinds of stuff. You would love having Tom on the show.
Let's do it, man. Hit me up. Send me his info. I'd love to reach out to him. Yeah, because I saw him on Christina's show, and he seems like a cool dude. And the more insight, the more perspectives we can have of this ranch, I think the better. I think this is sort of becoming a thing people look forward to after the show is this show, because I think people are thinking the same things. And like I said last week, man, I want to see a show just about the crew of this show. Like, I want to see a behind the scenes show of all of the mess that it takes to make this show. And when I say mess, I mean technical difficulties, not that the production's a mess, but it must be, and they work hard. Insanely difficult. No, they have to. And to do a production anywhere is hard, but to do it in the middle of almost pretty much a desert, that's hard. That's really difficult work.
I've seen those poor guys lug those, and they use the great big shoulder rigs, lug them up the mesa and get shots where it looks like they're going to fall off because they want to. I mean, kudos to the crews that we've had. They're part of the family, and like I said, they'd have some good stories to tell.
That's kind of what I want to get into, are the crew stories. Like, that's, I think, to me, the most interesting part. And not to say that you guys aren't interesting, but from a crew perspective, I'd love to hear their thoughts on filming the show, being part of the show, and
I don't
overcoming those problems.
I know you're over time, but that's the thing about it is these guys are independent contractors that come from all over the country, and they come out and they're like, "Well, we're going to shoot what about what?"
Yeah,
they were just like Travis as skeptics, and as they come back year after year, it's like, I mean, they're almost looking forward. They're looking forward to being part of the shoot if they're not on another job or something like that, because
they see the progression.
Things happen to them. They've witnessed things. They've had the equipment failures. They realize that something does go on here. It's not just, okay, we're going to go make a story about what, type of a thing. And they do work their butts off.
One quick question from Curious George. He's a fan of the show. Says, has production ever gone down completely because of this?
Completely gone down.
Has anything ever been scrapped because of the technical issues that they've run into?
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah. There's been a bunch of stuff where even back in season 1, we filmed a whole thing of doing a ground penetrating radar up on the mesa, and all the audio cards were wiped. There was no sound to it.
Wow.
Oh God, I want to see that.
Yeah.
In a follow-up season.
Yes, that's what I want to see
all
too.
Of that data and put that into here's the stuff you missed. I want
to interview this sound guy from that day, because I'm sure his face when he got back to the production tent and realized that there was no sound, I could not imagine. I can a little bit imagine what
you can imagine
he was
being
feeling.
fired.
Yeah. I'm sure he got an earful rather.
Yep.
And it probably wasn't even his fault. That's frustrating. But anyway, all right, you guys, thank you so damn much. I'm gonna get you guys out of here, and I'm gonna say goodbye to the audience, and we'll see you next week. But I appreciate all of you tremendously. Dragon, is there anything you'd like to say before you get out of here?
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support of the show. We appreciate the people that are joining the website and stuff like that. I said, we're going to have some good stuff because we're going to have a really cool roundtable discussion coming up this week with Brandon. Everybody going to be all there to talk about, and we'll have a lot of fun. It will be vastly different than what you see on the show. So
thanks for coming, dude.
Thanks to you guys. Appreciate it.
No, appreciation on both ends here. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon, my friend.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Joe. Jane, what do you got?
Well, hey, tomorrow night after UCR, head over to my channel. We're going to be breaking down The Thing, classic John Carpenter movie with Grant Levac, who's a fan. Nice. You guys all know Grant. So it'll be really fun.
I met Grant Levac for the first time a week ago.
I saw that picture. I was so jealous. I want to have breakfast with you guys.
He brought me Vegemite and some Australian cookies. The cookies were delicious. I haven't been brave enough to try the Vegemite yet. I'm gonna go get some crackers and maybe we'll do it live. I was gonna say, we'll do a live tasting of the Vegemite.
Braver than me.
Yeah, but all right, Jane. Yeah, we'll make sure to pump that after the show tomorrow. So go, guys. Jane's link is in the description below. So is everyone else's. So if you want to follow Jane, please do. Her link's right below. We'll see you tomorrow, Jane. Thank you for being here.
See you tomorrow.
Ciao. Cristina Gomez.
Tomorrow on Mysteries with the History is Mysteries of Utah. And all the research that I've done so far has just blown my mind over and over again. So it is a weird state completely. And then on Friday, I have Strange Paradigms with my guest co-host, Chris Plain, the head science writer of The Debrief, which is going to be pretty awesome.
Nice. Awesome, Cristina. Well, it was a pleasure having you for these first 4 episodes. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for coming by and hanging out. And of course, the door is always open for you to come back anytime you want.
Thank you so much. I am kind of sad this is my last episode to do with you guys. But like I said, I will be
Send us your scores in text. Send us your scores in text, and we'll read you. We'll include your score in every week. So that way you can still get your thoughts in there.
Never say never. Once you're fabulously successful, you might come back and join us again.
Yeah.
Well, I have a job,
Yeah. Well, kill it.
Thank you.
Make that money. I can't wait to see your bus when it's done. That's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah. All right, girl. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Ciao. Bye. Jazz Shaw, anything you want to say to the people before you get out of here?
Just one thing. Follow me on the usual places. Nothing big. Friday morning, everybody tune over to the debrief. I can't say what it is, but on Friday morning, you're going to see something brand new at the debrief that nobody has seen before. And if you're interested in this topic, you're going to find it very interesting.
When you say this topic, you mean UFOs?
The UFO topic, yes.
All right.
So there is something new coming on Friday morning.
Man, what a tease, my friend. I think you should get a raise after that tease there.
It's not even mine. It's coming from somebody else on the team.
Excellent,
but
man. Well, if you're
released yet. There's a couple more dots and T's to cross and things. But Friday morning. So check that out. You're gonna like it.
Awesome. All right, Jazz. Well, thanks for being here, my friend. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right, you guys. That was the show. Thank you so damn much for supporting the show. I just got to say real quick, we had a couple of new Patreon members sign up, so I wanted to give them a quick shout out and say thank you. I'm pulling that up right now. I probably should have been pulling that up while everybody was saying goodbye, but anyway, want to say thank you to, give me 2 seconds here. Of course, to everybody in the chat now, thank you guys so much. And we had 3 super chats. Sorry, you guys, I didn't even get to it. And Bryant, thank you for the $20 super chat. That flare burst at Skinwalker reminded me of a Terran in the sky. It did look very similar to that. I agree with you. Matthew Riot with a $2 donation, still pushing for the DMT experiment on Skinwalker Ranch. I think maybe season 4. Hopefully we'll see it happen. And then LCB with a $5 donation or pound note says, Luke, can you visit Skinwalker Ranch and bring back some independent evidence? I'm thinking about it. I want to do it. I'm thinking about it. It's a little scary, but I have a feeling I'm going to end up out there at some point. We've been invited out, so we just got to plan it and make sure it's done so we can share with you guys as much of it as we can. Anyway, thank you to everyone in the chat. Thank you to my new Patreon members, Melissa Strobel, Chris Gonzalez, Ronan Carmel, and Brian McDonald for upping your Patreon subscription. Thank you guys so damn much. Honestly, it's the best way to help the show. Link is in the description below if you guys want to help out that way. If you can't, do not sweat it. Everything on this show is free. There's no paywalls, so enjoy at your leisure. We truly appreciate all the support. Want to say thank you to the moderators, everyone else who was in the chat. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow. We got Caroline Corey in the house, director of A Terror in the Sky. So we'll be talking to her for the first hour. And then an hour or two, we'll be doing UFO video of the day and a couple of other news and notes of things that happened in the week. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. Until then, go Heat.